It's March the 18th. Let's read the Bible. Hey folks, guess what? Today we come to the end of the Pentateuch, the 5 books of Moses. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Today we wrap up the book of Deuteronomy. Remember, we're on a 1-year adventure from Genesis to Revelation in 1 year. And here we are, middle of March, and we're already done with the Pentateuch, and we've done the Gospel of Matthew, we've done the first 30 Psalms, and we're about to start the Gospel of Mark. So this is just an exciting time. And I want to say again how much I appreciate your support, the kind words you said. I did receive this comment, which was a great encouragement. Love that you are doing this. I listen to you on AFR all the time. AFR, of course, is American Family Radio. I'm one of the co-hosts of today's issues, along with Tim Wildman, who's the president of the American Family Association and host of today's issues. But a couple times a week, I'm on with Tim and the gang, and this is one of our AFR listeners. And welcome to all the AFR folks who are joining us on this year-long ride on the Bible bus. I listen to you, she says, on AFR all the time. Here's the part that touched me. I get eye strain easily and can't read like I used to. So this through the Bible is a blessing. Well, thank you, friend, for saying that. She says, love that you comment too. I'm not able to offer very many comments because otherwise we would never finish this in a year. But I do try to at least set the scene. And I thank my friend for listening to the radio and for being part of this adventure through the Bible. By the way, I love your comments on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, email, text message, however you want to get in touch with me. I try to read them all and answer as many as I can. Okay, today, this is Deuteronomy, just 2 chapters, the last 2 chapters, chapters 33 and 34. Let me tell you what's here. Chapter 33, Moses, his last words, he's going to bless the tribes of Israel. Then in chapter 34, he's going to go up on the mountain and he is going to die there. So we've got Moses' blessing and his death. So here we go. Deuteronomy 33. This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, gave the Israelites before his death. He said, the Lord came from Sinai and appeared to them from Seir. He shone on them from Mount Paran and came with 10,000 holy ones, with lightning from his right hand for them. Indeed, he loves the people. All your holy ones are in your hand, and they assemble at your feet. Each receives your words. Moses gave us instruction, a possession for the assembly of Jacob. So he became king in Jeshurun, when the leaders of the people gathered with the tribes of Israel. Let Reuben live and not die, though his people become few. He said this about Judah. Lord, hear Judah's cry and bring him to his people. He fights for his cause with his own hands, but may you be a help against his foes. He said about Levi, your Thummim and Urim belong to your faithful one. You tested him at Messah and contended with him at the waters of Meribah. He said about his father and mother, I do not regard them. He disregarded his brothers and didn't acknowledge his sons, for they kept your word and maintained your covenant. They will teach your ordinances to Jacob and your instruction to Israel. They will set incense before you and whole burnt offerings on your altar. Lord, bless his possessions and accept the work of his hands. Break the back of his adversaries and enemies so they cannot rise again. He said about Benjamin, the Lord's beloved rests securely on him. He shields him all day long, and he rests on his shoulders. He said about Joseph, may his land be blessed by the Lord with the dew of heaven's bounty and the watery depths that lie beneath, with the bountiful harvest from the sun and the abundant yield of the seasons, with the best products of the ancient mountains and the bounty of the eternal hills, with the choice gifts of the land and everything in it, and with the favor of him who appeared in the burning bush. May these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince of his brothers. His firstborn bull has splendor and horns like those of a wild ox. He gores all the peoples with them to the ends of the earth. Such are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and such are the thousands of Manasseh. He said about Zebulun, rejoice, Zebulun, in your journeys, and Issachar in your tents. They summon the peoples to a mountain. There they offer acceptable sacrifices, for they draw from the wealth of the seas and the hidden treasures of the sand. He said about Gad, the one who enlarges Gad's territory will be blessed. He lies down like a lion and tears off an arm or even a head. He chose the best part for himself because a ruler's portion was assigned there for him. He came with the leaders of the people. He carried out the Lord's justice and his ordinances for Israel. He said about Dan, Dan is a young lion leaping out of Bashan. He said about Naphtali, Naphtali enjoying approval, full of the Lord's blessing. Take possession to the west and the south. He said about Asher, may Asher be the most blessed of the sons. May he be the most favored among his brothers and dip his foot in olive oil. May the bolts of your gate be iron and bronze, and your strength last as long as you live. There is none like the God of Jeshurun, who rides the heavens to your aid, the clouds in his majesty. The God of old is your dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He drives out the enemy before you and commands destroy. So Israel dwells securely. Jacob lives untroubled in a land of grain and new wine. Even his skies drip with dew. How happy you are, Israel! Who is like you? A people saved by the Lord. He is the shield that protects you, the sword you boast in. Your enemies will cringe before you, and you will tread on their backs. Final chapter. Having given the blessing, the end of the story of Moses. Deuteronomy 34. Then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which faces Jericho, and the Lord showed him all the land. Gilead, as far as Dan, all of Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the land of Judah, as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev and the plain in the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, as far as Zoar. The Lord then said to him, this is the land I promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your own eyes, but you will not cross into it. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the Lord's word. He buried him in the valley, in the land of Moab, facing Beth Peor, and no one to this day knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not weak, and his vitality had not left him. The Israelites wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses came to an end. Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites obeyed him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. No prophet has arisen again in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. He was unparalleled for all the signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do against the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh, to all his officials, and to all his land, and for all the mighty acts of power and terrifying deeds that Moses performed in the sight of all Israel. And so comes to an end the story of Moses, the book of Deuteronomy, the Pentateuch, the Torah of God, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. There's a strong emphasis here, isn't there? That God keeps his promises. Always good to remember. The Lord's workers die, but his work goes on. God buries his workmen, but his work continues from one generation to another to another. His mercy endures forever, and his faithfulness from one generation to another. We thank God for Moses. not a perfect man. I mean, it's even said here in the last chapter, he didn't enter the promised land because he disobeyed the Lord back there when he was provoked by the people and his temper got the best of him. And yet God showed him the land. God keeps his promises. So be encouraged today, friends. God's workers die. God buries his workmen, but his work goes on and he allows us to be a part of it. So go out and have a great day. Tomorrow, we're going to start the Gospel of Mark. Get ready, folks. It's going to be fantastic. Have a great day. Come back tomorrow. We're going to start the Gospel of Mark. See you then.